Over the decades, successive UK governments have used every trick in the book to block the Scottish people's right to determine democratically their future. The current examples: the vote in 2014 was once in a generation, there is no demand, and the Scottish Government should focus on the NHS and pressing domestic issues. I'll touch on these as I progress. But I begin in 1979 with a referendum for an assembly. Better Together was in its infancy, but managed the extraordinary pairing of Labour's George Cunningham introducing the rule that 40% of the electorate had to vote for it to count. The dead and those abstaining were counted as no. In fact, 51% voted for an assembly but failed the Cunningham rule. And then there was the intervention of Tory peer Sir Alec Douglas-Hume 2 weeks before the referendum, promising more for Scotland if it voted no. I know because I was there. We were also too small, too poor and contradictory because of oil. We were too greedy. All this, and still a yes vote prevailed against the background of a winter of discontent. Fast forward 20 years and Tory Labour, otherwise known as Better Together, has formalised its partnership and Project Fear is revisited. One of the main planks of the No campaign was a yes vote would throw us out of the EU, and of course Labour's Gordon Brown's vow: vote no, and Labour would enhance devolution. Ring any bells? Despite all of that, Scotland voted 45% for independence. 24 years since Parliament came into being, in 1999 the SNP MSPs were in minority. We now have 64 and 8 Green MSPs, all standing openly for independence. A majority. The Unionists have 57. At Westminster, there are 6 Tory MPs, 4 Liberal Democrats, 1 Labour, 45 SNP. Yet Westminster blocks even a referendum because, according to it, there's no democratic mandate. Well, if ballot box results don't count, what does? Brexit. What a democratic affront that while 62% in Scotland voted Remain, that's from Shetland to the borders, we're out. There was no 40% rule then. The argument that the Scottish Government should focus on current pressing domestic issues, which it's doing, is the very reason why the need for independence is pressing. Economic mismanagement from successive UK governments, squandering the oil and gas revenues. Norway saved trillions in the Bank of UK plc, just a huge international overdraft. Brown's bank collapse, Trussonomics. Result: the UK has the highest inflation of the G7, leading to the right pay demands we see today. Just in the dark days of 1979, now is the very time when Scotland needs independence. And now I turn to the Supreme Court ruling, which only ruled on the limitations of the Scotland Act. I ask you to read McCormick against the Lord Advocate Obiter, where the Lord President Cooper said, I hope I've got time, the principle of unlimited sovereignty of Parliament is a distinctively English principle which has no counterpart in Scottish constitutional law. I have difficulty seeing why it should have been supposed that the new Parliament of Great Britain must inherit all the peculiar characteristics of the English Parliament, but none of the Scottish Parliament, as if all that happened in 1707 was that the Scottish representatives were admitted to the Parliament of England. That is not what was done. In Scotland, the people are sovereign. Charles is King of Scots, not Scotland. Ask the people, therefore, if they want Scotland to be independent. Give them that referendum, and the reason you're blocking it is because they say, yes, we want to be independent.